and Accountability Movement Ghana, Petition GH. Rashid, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time on CTV this afternoon. So you have written a petition. First, you are petitioning President Mahama for the removal of the Electoral Commission chairperson. You cited so many things, key among them financial loss to the state, creation of constitutional crisis, misconduct and abuse of public office. Why do you think it's necessary for the EC chair to be removed?
All right, thank you very much, and good afternoon to your listeners. As you have rightly stated, the Justice, Transparency and Accountability Movement have been through our political system for quite some time. And then we noticed that one of the institutions that are supposed to be or labeled to be independent, rather unfortunately, is doing things that does not depict that level of independence we are looking out for. So that's what engineered us to go into this research and then come out with certain findings that we have stated in our petition, and then suggested to the president to execute his powers as stated in the Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. And then clearly amongst them are, like we have stated, causing financial loss to the state. And then with that, we cited some examples of a moment where the country was in a fix that the president of the Republic, then Nana Akufo-Addo, had advised that everybody fastens their seat bills was at a point where the Electoral Commissioner chairperson, together with her two deputies, were bent on going into a new voter registration exercise that was supposed to have cost Ghana some 80 million US dollars then. Despite advices that we went through from other CSOs and then European Union organizations, she still went on to ensure this exercise was conducted. We also cited some issues of abuse of office, where we saw the Electoral Commissioner who, knowingly or unknowingly, had to go to the extent of appointing people who openly had contested on the ticket of political parties to come and then supervise or be returning officers at certain regions, on behalf of the Electoral Commission in an election as critical as in 2021. We also look at the constitutional crisis, where we wanted to prevent uprisings in certain parts of the country. So if you look at it, deliberately disenfranchised people and then also went against their constitutional will or right to elect people to represent them in parliament. We remember what happened at Chantio Kofi, Akpafo, Lolobi, and then Co. And so, where these people were denied parliamentary representation for 4 good years. Now, if these people are decided to stand up on their feet, carry weapons into their own hands, and then have neighboring communities support them, we can imagine what will happen in this country. We saw the agency and then rush security service and the government then used to arrest people who even were holding bread knives, and then they said that we were going to have a coup in this country. So imagine if an uprising of that sort is to happen. I don't want to remind us of the Western Togoland issues and all that. So these and many other things are things we believe that makes the Electoral Commissioner to be in a position where she has not conducted herself well, and then we have to look at them. Now we are even going to look at electoral violence that occurred out of her leadership. We are going to cite the Ayawasu West Wagon violence, the Techiman general election in 2020, and a host of them, which she has not been able to conduct herself well. But if you are looking at the constitutional amendments and then what is required before one can be moved out of office, it clearly states out there. And then we believe that she's not fit for purpose. She has shown signs of incompetence in her office or in her duties, and has also misconducted herself for a person who holds that high office.
I see. So President John Dramani Mahama, after or since you presented a petition, I'm sure that you've had no response from the presidency, correct?
Definitely, yes, correct.
Great. So it seems that President John Dramani Mahama is silent on the matter. What then do you hope to achieve with this petition?
I mean, I've said all the time that the president and his government, as much as we have a priorities also have what they are also looking out for in terms of administration. So from where we sit, positive transparency and accountability movement, we feel that this is one of the pressing needs, that if the president really is in for a reset agenda, like he said before he was elected, then it's one of the institutions that needs to be resetted. However, it is up to their discretion to decide when and how to attend to them, even though we deem it very important. We were a bit alarmed initially when we were not getting feedback from them, but we have also observed a number of activities or actions being taken by this government that we are suddenly motivated that if the systems that were supposed to be put in place to be attended to the petition that went for the removal of the CJ has been successful, that today, based on the petitioner's suggestions or recommendations, a committee has gone together and then has brought a conclusion that led to a removal, then we believe that it is in place for the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and her two deputies also to be looked at, and the necessary action should be taken.
I see. Well, what do you say to many or those who say that this is a politically motivated agenda to kick out the Electoral Commission chairperson?
I mean, there's nothing you can do in this country or any part of the world that is going to directly benefit everybody or be in the good eyes of everybody. There are some that will surely complain. It is unfortunate that our wake-up call has come at a point where we have a government who has some of the people who also were against the Electoral Commission's activities before the 2024 elections. What we seek to do is to ensure that probity and accountability takes its good form. What we seek to do is to have an electoral reform in our country where people will have more confidence in the Electoral Commissioner, whilst we call it independence. What we are looking out for is not to establish precedents where every government will come and decide to put up their own Electoral Commissioner, but rather to put people of credible personalities to be able to work. And then, I mean, we continue with the good ones we had, like our own Afarijan and then others.
Of course, that was what I was going to ask. That is this not a continuation of a precedent being set by a previous government, where every president comes, so every government assumes office, and then wants to have its own leaders as far as the various arms of government, certain agencies are concerned? How do we deal with this matter going forward?
I mean, we are looking at, like I said, credibility, and then when you come and conduct yourself well, I'm not sure there will be anybody who will not feel comfortable to work with you. We have had issues where flag bearers clearly declared their stance by saying they did not in any way supported government institutions, and then when they came and made certain things, that looks so political. But I'm not sure we've heard anything of that sort here, even though we've had the president now, when he was flag bearer, then complaining, some of his party members also complain about the Electoral Commissioner's activities and all that. We are not politically motivated. We are an independent institution that believes in accountability, and then that's what we believe in, transparency, and that's what we are looking out for. Like I said, it is only unfortunate that it happened at a time that people in government also have a fair share in whatever we are looking out for to be the result of our petition.
Very well. Well, you have petitioned. President is silent. You are eager for the removal of the Electoral Commission chairperson. What next for your group?
I mean, we are looking for results. So while this has been able to done, while that is achieved, we would list out other things we are looking out for. We are still doing our own investigations in other government or state institutions that the government might not have its direct eyes there. We have turned ourselves into the independent investigators, and then once we see something wrong, we'll surely bring it out. However, if we wait for some time and then we are not getting any clear movement or signs from the presidency as to what the way forward regarding the removal of the EC chair is, PITAM Africa will surely get back to the media and the general public on our next line of action.
Any ultimatum?
We'll leave it open for now.
Right, Rashid, let me thank you for your time this afternoon. So that's Rashid Issa, who is the Vice President of the Positive Transparency and Accountability Movement Ghana, PTAM GH. Doc, I'm sure you listen to.
That's a beautiful interview you had there.
Interesting.
Yes, and so like I said, Kwame, it's important that the viewers and our people understand that this is happening as a result of somebody feeling that the electoral commissioner or the electoral commission itself might have misconducted themselves, the leadership actually, or may have engaged in some incompetencies as well as bias, because there are grounds on which you can come and for some of your issues to be addressed if you really want serious about getting an electoral commissioner. Because don't forget that electoral commissioner chairperson is in the league of a court of appeal judge, and so if you are bringing a petition for the removal of such a person, you have to come strong and grounded, well grounded. If deputies are also coming on the grounds, or they stand as high court judges, they are in the league of high court judges, and so whatever petition you are bringing against the deputies should also be watertight and carry that gravitas. And so for me, like I said, there are some. I've read through the petition. Yes, you could clearly see that it is tailored to fit a certain clause that can really catch that agenda or that or arrive at that decision that they are looking for. That is to remove the electoral commission, because clearly I see the issues about bias in there, which of course is one of the reasons or one of the grounds for which an electoral commissioner can be removed. I see a ground trying to breach, or the electoral commission putting activities that breached fundamental human rights of the citizens, some citizens, which has to do with the SAL conversation. I see it in there, which is also a good ground for which an electoral commissioner can be removed. Gross incompetence, not just incompetence, gross incompetence, and I see them demonstrate some aspect of that, and they make the claim. I think if you read through, there's a portion, there's a paragraph like that, which has to do with gross incompetence and
so they talk about the announcement of the election results
just severally. So it is some grounds that they want to demonstrate to the president that the electoral commission or the commissioner was exhibited gross incompetence in that regard. And then the last but not the least,
is that really gross incompetence, not just competent, gross incompetence.
To announce electoral results 7 or 6 times, even if you announce election results twice, is incompetence. It's enough grounds for your removal, because elections in this country, Kwame, and per the constitution of our land, elections are critical exercises that ought not to be seen as just any ordinary thing. Just that we as a people in 2020, Ghanaians themselves are very tolerant. I'm just wondering what would have happened if this thing has happened in any other jurisdiction. What might have happened in that particular country or state. And so it's important that some of these things are looked at critically. And so if you have an electoral commission declare results that number of times, it brings a lot of confusion in the system, and we are grateful to God that the country did not run out of itself. I see that aspect where they want to demonstrate the aspect of misbehavior, which has to show that the electoral commission abused its resources that were allocated to it on the grounds that, I mean, it was just not competent in exercising that direct authority and supervision in its exercise all over the place. And so, like I said, I am not in a position to determine whether or not this petition would suffice, but it is all good and well if the president is minded. I'm sure by this time, whatever it is, the president might have taken the petition to the Chief Justice, which is the way to go. Procedurally, the president will have to take this petition to the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice will then look at it and determine if there can be any, in fact, there's any prima facie, and then for which reason.
Kindly hold on for me. Let me speak to Dr. James Kwabena Bonfe. He is the CEO for Center for Citizenship, Constitutional and Electoral Systems. He joins me on the phone. Doc, good afternoon to you. I'm grateful for your company this afternoon.
Good afternoon, KOG, and thank you for having me.
Great. Let me have your reaction to the removal of the Chief Justice, Madam Tokono. Many have raised several concerns about the fact that this is a bad precedent that the President, John Dramani Mahama, has set, contrary to what many say is the reset agenda. Let me have your reaction.
First of all, it is an affront to our constitutional dispensation. It's a challenge to, the principle of separation of powers, and it's a bad precedent that John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, would never be forgiven for. This is something that it was initiated by him as a campaign promise, and it is obvious that the way they are going, their whole reset agenda needs a reset. They breach every step of the way laid in Article 1436 to allow the executive to enter the hallowed ground of exercising, if you like, executive authority in the judicial process to exercise some sanction or bring about, a very revered sanction of any nature or case that would be of a solemn magnitude that is irreparable by any means except than to relieve the person of his or her, a judge of the Supreme Court, or in this case, the Chief Justice for that matter. What they have done will not be applicable to a judge of the Superior Court of Judicature. So why would we do it to somebody of a higher measure, especially so against the precedent that was clearly laid by the Supreme Court in the Ajetu case of 2005? Except there's only one thing. President Mahama is bent on showing power at all costs because of the outcome of the 2024 general election. The Constitution is not the problem. President Mahama and his team of advisors are the problem. And let me show you why they are the problem. The recommended dismissal of Daniel Mensa as a High Court judge was sitting on President Mahama's table after 2016 in his first term. As we speak, there's every attempt to promote Daniel Mensa from the High Court to the Appeals Court. Why would anybody do this? Somebody that a prima facie case has been established by the Chief Justice, then a committee went into it, the Judicial Council sat on it, made their recommendation to the President that shield that or shelve it. But in this case, they have hurriedly, following the example of the late Dr. Fabnage, that there are many ways in killing a cat, they have really truncated the beautiful record of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokono. And this is a woman so far, those who have followed decisions and rulings in the Supreme Court, from the lower court up to the Supreme Court, she is reasonable advocacy as well. But hey, what we always say is that they may think that it is the individuals here who will be affected. It is the nation that will suffer.
I see. Before we come to the repercussions of this ruling or this decision by the president, first a committee was set, a prima facie case was established. It was the final say.
That is not true. You see, this is why 5 cases pending at the Supreme Court, including one in the name of census. The Attorney General, as we speak now, has failed to respond to the processes that have been set on him. You see, and the Supreme Court said that our interlocutory applications should be denied because justice will be given at the committee hearing. Now, here is the point. The Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, on 2 different occasions, told the world that she was not being given fair treatment at the committee
committee level. So, who established prima facie before the setting up of the committee? What was the prima facie? These were the questions that were posed and have been posed at the Supreme Court. They have not been answered. So when you start on the premise, on the point that prima facie was established, the committee says that they have reached a conclusion on one of the petitions, and there are two outstanding petitions, and they are yet to go on into them. Meanwhile, lawyer representing the Chief Justice has made it amply clear to the whole world that evidence that they put before the committee were ignored by the committee, including the travel policy of the Judicial Service. So if you say that she was given a fair hearing, where? In Wonderland or in Accra during the funny trial without due cause to natural justice? That's unfair that we will do this to ourselves in this age and this era, given the history of our country.
What picture does it paint for our judicial system?
Well, it means that we cannot trust the judiciary, and the unfortunate part that you had two justices of the Supreme Court lead this process, and they don't want us to talk about it. Of course, and it is correct that the chairman of the committee said that their holdings, their meetings were not in secret, even though they were in confidence. And we know what happened. The chairman of the committee of experts that drafted the 1992 constitution, Nana Professor Susubibi Kobia Asante, appeared before them. He told them that the path they were on was in contravention with the spirit and the letter of the constitution that they drafted. The former Chief Justice, Madame Sophia Akofo, before the committee, she told them, say, she even added that what they are putting the woman to is a policy document that their chief justices have enjoyed. So it is not something new. Justice Yeboah, a former chief justice, appeared before the committee to testify, said, but beyond this, let's ask ourselves critical questions. How can you hold the chief justice responsible for payment that was made to her husband and her daughter by the Judicial Service without her direct involvement? Are you saying that if today some MPs are paid double salaries as it was done in the past, we should go and hold Speaker Bagwe responsible for controller paying MPs an amount that they received without the intervention or the knowledge of the Speaker? This is not only a bad and dangerous precedent, it is an attack on what we want to call decency and humanity.
Obviously, there are repercussions in the future. How do we correct this? Because it looks like if the opposition party assumes office someday, they will take a revenge.
First of all, I don't want us to even bring in parties to this matter. This is an attack by President of the Republic on the Constitution he swore to protect. This is an attack by a party that sponsored the President against the very Constitution that gives them life to exist and operate as a political party. It is about Ghana and not any political party, except those who are seeking to destroy the nation through what creates our governance architectural system. And that's what we should be concerned about. As far as I'm concerned, look, political parties would have their policies and all these things. But when you are given power of the state to handle, you govern decently, you govern according to law. I've shown you the bias of the president in exercising Article 140. I have shown you how he has gone beyond the law. I have shown you how in the of cases at the Supreme Court, we have concluded with the AG being reluctant about it. So where are we going? All you need to do is to campaign and win elections. Once you win, you can do anything with the Constitution. Of course, we are giving reason and credence to what Hubert Humphrey said in 1965 in his small book, The Cost of Mankind, that the law can be no better than the people who are called upon to obey or administer it. The law is so different from the people. Good people, the law will be good. But if you have bad people utilizing the law, they will make it a bad law. And that's why Adolf Hitler said that And the law is a mere sheet of paper. And in the UK, the legal system within the UK, they say that the law is an art. It depends on who is holding it and what they do with it. So this is a dangerous precedent, and I tell you, Mr. President, he will live to regret it. Let me make this point. I mean, Kumai. One of the biggest regrets I am sure Kwame Nkrumah had was the removal of Seyaku Kosa as Chief Justice. Even that, it was authorized quite differently by the 1960 Constitution in Article 44 and 45 of the Constitution. It gave the President the power to revoke the appointment of the Chief Justice at any point in time. It was from the experience of the 1960 Constitution that all the other constitutions we have had, 1969, 79, and 1992, went back to the status quo ante to make sure that we isolate the justices of the Superior Court from easy and cheap executive manipulation, such that you will need a certain oversight and exercise of judicial scrutiny before it is done. But look at us, we have thwarted it, and we think we have done something good. And
Is there a way we can protect the judiciary? Because the Attorney General you mentioned is an appointee of the President. Obviously, whoever advises the President on legal matters is also somebody the President really is close to the President, or the President really
the late Professor A.K.P. KWESI said something in his book, which was the David Duncan Memorial Lecture 2010 on the challenges of the Constitution 1962. He dealt with the issue of who Attorney General Minister of Justice they are. It is not so much coupling the position that matter, but who we appoint to go there. Look, I have made the point, and I don't need to belabor it. The law is as good as those who enforce it. Are we insistent on ensuring that there is rule of law, that there is separation of powers? I've asked two questions. Did the Chief Justice say those monies that she is charged with were taken from the consolidated fund to herself? Did she receive the money that her husband and daughter received? What has happened to the person who paid the money to the Chief Justice's husband and wife, for which the Chief Justice is being punished? What has happened to that person? So you see, chaotic. The point is that give the dog a bad name to hang it. It's what President Mahama has done. Don't forget